Prelude is Deep Purple, it says. So I'm singing next week, and I'm practicing, so I'm going to learn that song.
You could put your drink here, no?
That's what I need. Need this. Need matches. Gonna light that.
There's the AC is right here.
Your church, huh? The Church of Luke.
Ages. Thank you. Thank you, Alicia. Good morning to you. Good morning to you. We're all in our places with bright, shining faces. Good morning to you. My grandmother used to sing that. She was a teacher of developmentally disabled adults in the early 1920s, so 100 years ago. And she got married and quit her job like women used to do back then and moved to California. And then she went back for a visit like 10 years later, and she said the reunion with the students and her, she said, was a very warm occasion. I never got to meet her. I wish I had. But my name is Margie Bolak, and I'm your service leader today. Welcome to the University Unitarian Universalist Fellowship. I don't know about the rest of you, but I always have to remind myself which U word comes first. And that's why we say triple U. That helps us out. Now is a good time for you to silence your devices. And we'd like to remind everyone that if you're not feeling well, please stay at home and enjoy us on YouTube. And we'll see you when you're feeling better. We have 3 exits if there's any need for them, out that door that you came in, out to the Memorial Garden behind you, and through the double doors here, out toward the RE building. All right, time to get started with any committee moments.
We have a new box for the Knight's Pantry collection. Instead of the big brown cardboard box, we are now using this. So the top is on it, but it comes off very easily. So please feel free to fill it out.
Good morning, David. Hello.
Morning.
Hi. Can you hear me?
Not through the thing, but.
Not through here?
Yeah.
I can talk
No, because
loud.
we've got people online, so let me.
All right.
Make sure it's on.
All right. Sounds good. How rude. I didn't do it. I promise.
I know he can project. I mean,
Yeah. People online.
yeah.
I might have to go use Margie's here.
Yeah.
Should I use Margie's?
For now.
Yeah.
Pardon me, I'll just.
What about this one, Patrick? That's up here in the...
Hello? Oh, there you go. I'll talk quiet now. David McElroy, tomorrow night, men's support group here at the church, 6:30, here in the sanctuary. Potluck or bring your own. If you haven't been before and you'd like to have information, see me after.
All right. Good morning, Reverend Tracie here. I have two announcements. One, this afternoon at 2 p.m. will be our memorial service for Stephanie Mesler-Myrick. You are all invited to stay. There will be light refreshments afterwards. That begins at 2 p.m. And on a note that Stephanie would have loved, on Wednesday, the 12th, we are having a Pulse Remembrance and a Keep On Dancing party. And here's the details you need to know about that. The Pulse Remembrance will start at 6 p.m. We will read the names and light candles and have a little bit about that. And then, yes, there it is. And then we will do a glitter blessing to start our way into the Keep On Dancing to celebrate our welcoming congregation status. We have a drag king and a drag queen coming to perform for tips only, which is huge, so bring your singles or higher and be prepared to tip. This is an all ages event. There will not be childcare. If you want to bring your kids, they can come too. The performances will be all ages friendly, so do not stress about that. But bring your dollars, bring something for the rainbow potluck. We want something in a rainbow color or a color of the rainbow, and bring any beverages. And I will just tell you now, there's a lot of decorations that we're going to be putting up. So you might want to come so you can see it. And so that's all I have.
Okay, I got two hats again today, but I didn't bring any hats. So number one, I don't know how I got to be the inclusion person, because Larry doesn't like to speak into the microphone, so so we need musicians, singers, anybody who's interested in playing with inclusion. That's why it's called inclusion, because we want to include you. So if you play an instrument, please get with Larry and talk to him about that, because we need you, because it can't always be the Larry and Jill show. And number two, women's group, we met on Friday, and we're going to have a beach evening next month. We decided we would do it the 13th, because the first week of July is July 4th weekend, and people probably won't be here. So the 13th of July, we're going to meet. More details to come, but it will be in the evening so we don't burn. And hopefully Mother Nature will cooperate. So that's the idea, the 13th of July. Save the date.
So just curious, if you're missing an umbrella, drinking vessel, or a wrist device, it might be in here. And the box is kept over there on that table underneath the picture of everyone, the picture of the founding members. So take a look.
Hey guys, Derek, Facilities and Grounds. Let's see, next Saturday is work day and we do need some help. However, we did get the trees all removed, right? So we don't have to do that. And we got our banners hung already. You guys might have seen that, right? So, and we got the hole fixed in the AV closet. So some light engineering is what we need, right? We're gonna put up the mural, the thing for the mural in the back. and we're gonna move the play set and then put anchors on it, concrete anchors, so that it doesn't, it turns out the kids are getting bigger. And when they swing, it's like taking the swing set is like coming out of the ground. So we're gonna try to fix that. So a little bit of light engineering. And we gotta fix the chairs, the little plastic thingies on the bottom. Some of them are come off and they're tearing up the carpet. So it's not too hard, right? It'll be easy work. Thanks, guys.
And one last thing for committee moments. Next Sunday is Father's Day, and we encourage you to honor someone, a stepdad, your father, somebody who has been like a father to you. We're going to have a Father's Day slideshow. So send your photo of your father-like person to admin@uuuf.org by noon on Wednesday. Images will be compiled into a slideshow. You may, if you like, include his name, year of birth, and, if relevant, death, and be sure to include how you would like to be listed. Alternative fathers and like-a fathers are always welcome, but be sure to indicate how you would like them listed. Example, Dan Jones, 1936 to present, is like a father to me, Sylvia Brown. And the rest of the message is cut off so you can imagine what the rest of it would have been, but you get the idea. So feel free to contribute. I hope you do. Okay. My opening words today come from Lena Waithe. And if you don't know who she is, she's an American actress, producer, screenwriter, and leader in the gay community in Hollywood. And she said, "I see each and every one of you. The things that make us different, those are our superpowers. Every day when you walk out the door and put on your imaginary cape and go out there and conquer the world, because the world would not be as beautiful as it is if we weren't in it." And now it is time for our opening music. Paula and Alicia, thank you.
This song is by Fred Small, who's one of my favorite singer-songwriters. No longer with us, but he left quite the legacy behind. We have cleared off the table, the leftovers saved, washed the dishes and put them away. I have told you a story and tucked you in tight at the end of your knockabout day, as the moon sets its sails to carry you to sleep over the midnight sea. I will sing you a song no one sang to me. May it keep you good company. You can be anybody you want to be. You can love whomever you will. You can travel any country where your heart leads, and know I will love you still. You can live by yourself. You can gather friends around. You can choose one special one. And the only measure of your words and your deeds will be the love you leave behind when you're done. There are girls who grow up strong and bold. There are boys quiet and kind. Some race on ahead, some follow behind, some go in their own way and time. Some women love women, some men love men, some raise children, some never do. You can dream all the day, never reaching the end of everything possible for you. Don't be rattled by names, by taunts, by games, but speak out, Spirit's true. If you give your friends the best part of yourself, they will give the same back to you. You can be anybody you want to be. You can love whomever you will. You can travel any country where your heart leads, and know I will love you still. You can live by yourself. You can gather friends around. You can choose one special one. And the only measure of your words and your deeds will be the love you leave behind when you're done.
Thank you, both of you. Those are beautiful lyrics. Today our chalice lighter is Chase. Chase, is this a special day for you? Why?
Because it's my birthday.
And how old are you? How old are you?
I'm 14.
Collected 14 birthdays so far. Yes. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Turn around, Chase. Happy birthday, dear Chase. Happy birthday. They're all singing to you. And we need to say together, in the light of truth and the warmth of love, we gather to seek, to sustain, and to share. And now we state our affirmation, a weekly reminder to us as to why we're here and what brings us together. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its gift. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek truth and love, and to help one another. So a special welcome to our visitors today. I'm so glad you've decided to join us here. If this is your first time or second time here, we recommend you come several times because every week is different. We have different speakers from different walks of life, and they're always fascinating. And so now it's time to turn to a neighbor and say hello, especially if there's one you really don't know that well. Okay, we'll have plenty of time after services to continue those conversations. Let's all turn around and say hi to those who are watching us online also. And now, I believe it's time for joys and concerns. Yes. If there be any among us who wish to share the burdens or the joys that weigh upon your hearts, speak freely, but be mindful of our quest to steer clear of political tumult. And do remember, dear souls, that our words shall echo on the digital stage of YouTube. Alice, go ahead.
I'm invited to a birthday party and I'm coming.
Very nice. Very nice. Speaking of birthdays, this is a little pre, but I'm going to say it anyway. Try to keep July 21st open. I'm giving myself an 80th birthday party. It's a Sunday, and we're having cake after service. So please, if you're in the area, please come on that Sunday. The second thing is, yesterday I was very privileged with Derek to give James his guitar for his 17th birthday, and he was thrilled. And Chloe was there, so it was wonderful. It was a great time, and I really appreciate it. And they really appreciate that guitar, Derek. I want you to know it is definitely appreciated. And the last thing is, this Friday, I don't know if this is a joy or concern, my husband is coming home overnight for our anniversary. So I'm a little nervous, but I have a nurse hired, so I should be fine. But anyway, just keep me in your thoughts if you would, please.
Good luck, Joey. So I have a little concern. My dad is going to be 95, and he fell. Yes, he broke his hip. It's a small fracture is what they tell me. Yeah, he actually walked on it for 2 days. So it's not that bad, but he does have to have surgery on Monday. And, you know, I'm not a fool. I've been a nurse a long time, so I know anesthesia and old people is a scary thing. So if you guys could just say a little prayer for me tomorrow, I'd appreciate it.
Hi, Chloe Hatfield. I have two joys. The first one is that over the weekend, I got to introduce Max to a lot of friends of mine, and I think they like them better than me. I had one person said, if you do anything to hurt him, we're going to come for you. It's like, oh, okay, all right. The second one has been a process in the making, and I haven't been saying anything just to not jinx myself, and I feel like I'm still a little early on it, so I'm just going to knock on wood. I'm in the search for a house in Sanford, and I just got an email, I've been getting emails this past weekend about signing for the pre-approval for the mortgage, so I think I can safely say I'm going to be buying a house soon, so yay!
For those of you who have noticed something odd about my appearance, I finally went to a dermatologist because I have a family history of skin cancer and a bunch of other kinds, and so the dermatologist gave me some stuff to put on my face twice a day for 4 weeks. Well, this is what that looks like in process. And so it won't kill me. It just feels like I want to kind of rake the top layer off. But I'm going to get through this, and I'd like to also thank whoever brought the tomatoes today. Was this your work? Who brought that? Jason. Okay. Well, my thanks to Jason. A man among men. Woohoo.
I went to Vermont and got to see my cousins and went to this water park. My joy is that in a few weeks I'm going on the quit to my grandma's house.
We are also joyful that we have lots of tomatoes in our garden, so Jason brought a basket to share. Please take whatever you like.
After we are done with here, because I forgot the name, but when we're done with church, we're gonna go and get some delicious ice cream.
So I have a couple of joys. One, I think I shared that like my son had been struggling recently, and so he's doing some things to take care of himself. I'm very happy about that. And he actually also has like a job interview tomorrow. So if you guys could just send some positive vibes that way, got my fingers crossed for him. And then also I have I have a birthday coming up this week and a big show that I've been talking about forever. It's a burlesque show, so it's 18 and up. But it is like my big birthday show this Friday coming up. So I didn't get posters made in time, but like if anybody is interested, please let me know and I can help you find tickets and stuff. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Miguel Rodriguez here. This, I believe, is a joy that we have a guest and visitor. I think online, her name is Allie Carville, so welcome from Fort Myers. And she's moving to Orlando from there. Loving the inclusivity of youth, so refreshing to see, as she says online. And she's got to get her boxes unpacked, but we'll be here in person in the near future. So, excuse my, I need glasses. Also, could you roll that beautiful bean footage, Patrick? It's an old commercial, so but it is a lovely picture of our Reverend Tracie, Reverend Dr. Tracie. A lot of you may know I have a YouTube channel with friends of mine, and its purpose actually contains a lot of the UU principles. And a couple of Fridays ago, we had the honor and pleasure of talking with our beloved Reverend Dr. Tracie, and it was wonderful. It was one of our longest because it was so good. Yeah. So we could have easily. Yeah. And we had to stop. We had to, unfortunately, but we'll have her back. And please, look her up. Just Google Infinite Discoveries, and it'll pop up. And it's a wonderful conversation. So, please, when she's not with us any longer as our minister, we still have something to remember her by.
I have a joy and a concern. My concern is that I do have a couple of family members battling health issues right now. They're both pretty private, so I won't get into specifics, but they are fighting the fight. And my joy is Reverend Dr. Tracie plugged the Pride celebration and memorial on Wednesday during committee moments, and I'm just really excited to go and to be a part of it. And thank you to my girlfriend Chloe for roping me in.
Yeah.
I share that joy.
And Luke and I have a joy. We're leaving Friday. We're going to go see his daughter who lives she moved to Belgium about 9 months ago. So we're going over to spend some time with her and other places. We'll have a good time. We'll be gone for about 3 weeks. So, yeah. So let's have a moment of silence for all the joys and concerns shared and those that remain unspoken. And now it's time for All Ages with James.
Thank you. So I'm just going to move this back a little. Good morning, everyone. Okay, it's good enough. So I have a story for you guys today because it's a little bit more complicated than some of the other ones. I'm just going to read it rather than have people act it out. I hope you guys forgive me. Wait up. There we go. A little taller. So, once upon a time, in a land far, far away, there lived a young woman at the edge of a wood. One summer day, she went out into the wood to pick flowers and came upon a marvelous rose growing beside a clear spring. It was huge and fragrant and 2 colors, white as snow on the outside and red as blood in the center. She was delighted at her find and quickly picked one of the blooms to bring home with her. But as soon as the flower was cut, a tall, beautiful woman with long golden hair appeared in front of her. "What are you doing taking of my roses?" asked the golden-haired woman. "I'm so sorry," said the flower cutter. "I didn't realize they belonged to anyone. Here." She held out the cut rose and all the other flowers she had picked that day, a beautiful wildflower bouquet. "Take these with my apologies." The golden-haired woman took the bouquet, but not the rose, and smiled. "No harm was done," she said. "In fact, if you come back again tomorrow, you may take another. The blooms will be even more beautiful then." The flower cutter agreed. She went home, but came back again the next day after collecting another small bouquet of wildflowers. As promised, the roses were even more spectacular than the day before. This time, the golden-haired woman was waiting, and the flower cutter offered her another bouquet of wildflowers. "If you come back tomorrow," said the golden-haired woman, "the blooms will be even more beautiful still." And so the flower cutter returned, this time bringing a picnic basket as well as another wildflower bouquet. The 2 women picnicked together beside the rose bush and drank from the cool, clear spring. And so it went for every day of the summer until the 2 women had fallen deeply in love. "Why do you seem so sad?" asked the flower cutter one early autumn day, for the golden-haired woman was very downcast. "Because I love you," said the golden-haired woman, "but the autumn equinox approaches, and I must leave this world on that day. For you see, as a child, I was taken by a fairy, and every year I am taken back to the fairy's realm for the dark half of the year, from the autumn equinox to the spring. So it will be for my whole life unless someone can rescue me from the fairy queen." "I will rescue you," said the flower cutter. "Tell me what I must do." And so the golden-haired woman did. On the eve of the autumn equinox, the flower cutter returned to the rose bush at midnight to find her golden-haired love surrounded by 7 fairy knights and the fairy queen. "How dare a mortal intrude upon the presence of the fairy queen?" exclaimed the nearest of the knights, drawing a glittering sword. "I am here to claim my love," said the flower cutter, and with that she wrapped her arms tight around the golden-haired woman. "Release her," demanded the fairy queen, her voice like thunder, but the flower cutter held fast. "Very well," said the queen, "I will make thee." And with that, the golden-haired woman transformed into a wolf within the flower cutter's arms, with teeth sharp and long, but the flower cutter held fast. Then the wolf transformed into a giant serpent with poison dripping from its fangs, but still the flower cutter held fast. The serpent began to change, to grow wings and claws, and within moments the flower cutter was embracing a dragon who blew out a fierce plume of fire, but still she held fast. Then the dragon began to change, to become hot and dark and small, until the flower cutter was holding a burning coal, and she threw the coal into the clear spring, and it transformed back into the golden-haired woman she so loved. The fairy queen screamed, for she had been defeated and the golden-haired woman was free. "You will pay for this," she cried, and raised her great hand, shimmering with power. But at that moment dawn broke, for time passes strangely when fairies are about, and with the first rays of sunlight the fairies vanished. The flower cutter helped the golden-haired woman out of the spring and gave her her cloak for warmth as they walked together back to the flower cutter's cottage. There they made a home together, got married under a canopy of roses, and lived happily ever after for the rest of their days. Thank you.
You are a natural storyteller, James. You are really good at that. Thank you. Now it's time for our interlude and offering. While the children pass the baskets, Alicia will be playing Nocturne for us. And we are sharing the plate with Planned Parenthood. And I'll tell you, Planned Parenthood, I depended on them in college. And if, just personal opinions here, I've always thought if you are anti-abortion, not pro-choice. It doesn't matter where you stand on that issue, you should support Planned Parenthood because they certainly help reduce the need for abortions. Yay them. Yes, medical care on top of contraceptive advice, yes. Thank you, Alicia. Now it's time to sing out the kids. We love you and bless you and send you on your way. We love you and bless you today and every day. And now, please welcome our very own Reverend Dr. Tracie Barrett, who will speak to us today about the history of pride. Yes.
June 28th, 1969, Greenwich Village, New York City, the Stonewall Inn. In the early Saturday morning hours, the NYPD raided the popular gay bar. During the previous raids, the police would come in, all the lights get turned on, and they often arrested men inside. But on this night, first though, it's important to understand what was happening leading up to this night. Throughout New York State in the 60s, homosexuality was considered a crime. The PBS show American Experience covered this time in their episode Stonewall Uprising and shared many of the PSAs that ran on television during that time. They are, in a word, horrific. I honestly couldn't find a way to describe them without it possibly, likely causing harm. To our eyes and ears today, the claims of the psychologists and doctors of that time feel strange and misguided, although some of the rhetoric of some politicians today echoes those PSAs. So in the early 60s, there was an order by Mayor Wagner to get rid of all the gay bars in New York City, because you see, they would be hosting the World's Fair in 1964, so the city needed to be cleaned up. Now, it's important to note that during this time, straight people could go to bars and clubs, dance, kiss, do the things consenting adults do in the dark corners of said bars and clubs. and no one was going in and raiding them, and they had plenty of places to go. For gays and lesbians, it was not safe to meet in these bars and clubs. So enterprising bar owners began to open spaces for them. Now, granted, some of these enterprising bar owners were the mafia, and such was the case with the Stonewall Inn. The Genovese crime family owned the Stonewall Inn, and they were often tipped off before police raids, and they paid to keep those raids to a minimum. Now, it didn't stop the raids. In fact, Stonewall had just been raided on Tuesday night prior to the date we're talking about. Early in the evening of June 27, 1969, 2 female and 2 male undercover police officers arrived at the Stonewall to gather visual evidence for the Public Morals Squad. They called for backup using the bar's own payphone, which is bold. Staff at the Stonewall said they weren't even notified in advance of this raid, as they often were. At 1:20 a.m. Saturday, June 28, 1969, 4 plainclothes policemen in dark suits and 2 officers in uniform arrived at the double doors and announced, "Police, we're taking this space." The music turned off, lights turned on, and this was a signal for the patrons to stop dancing, stop touching, and back up from one another. There were approximately 200 patrons in the bar. And things did not go quite according to plan. Now, typically, in these raids, the female officers would take anyone who was dressed like a woman to the bathroom to check, and if they were found to be men, they were arrested. Typically, the rest of the patrons would be lined up and identifications checked, typically, and keep in mind that their names would be posted the next day in the paper as being part of a police raid on a gay bar. But that night, those dressed in women's clothing refused to go to the bathroom. The men in line began to refuse to provide their identification. So the police decided, well, we'll just take them all in, along with that alcohol. But they were waiting for the patrol wagons to arrive because it was important to seize the 28 cases of beer and 19 bottles of liquor. That's fine. Let's keep everyone in an orderly line at the entrance, right? Because what could go wrong? Keep in mind, 6 officers. Well, those there that night said it was at this moment that a wave of discomfort ran through the bar. The police began to decide maybe we shouldn't arrest everyone because that's a lot of people. So they started letting some patrons out the front door. Only this time the patrons didn't go home. So now you've got police cars outside the bar, lights going, and a group of people hanging around outside. That's not something that's going to attract attention, especially when raids are a regular event, right? Maybe not this time. Right, it's New York City, exactly. But within minutes, there were between 100 and 150 people outside. The customers released from the Stonewall started performing for the crowd, mimicking the police in extravagant ways. And that crowd applauded and laughed, egging the patrons on. And those performers in the house know that when there is laughter and applause, what do? You keep on going. Give them more. When the first wagon arrived, one of the officers on scene, Deputy Inspector Seymour Pine, recalled that the crowd outside had now grown to at least 10 times the number of people they'd arrested. He recalls the 6 officers all became very quiet as they realized they were now outnumbered. The second wagon was delayed because of radio miscommunication. The officers first started escorting out the mafia members into the wagon. Then the crowd cheered for that, yes, because they were not doing well with cleanliness and alcohol. I encourage you to watch that American Experience episode. But then the regular employees were escorted out. And someone in the crowd shouted, "Gay power!" And someone else began leading the song, "We Shall Overcome." The crowd was restless with a mix of good energy and something else people couldn't quite name. And then an officer shoved a person in drag who turned around and hit the officer with her purse. The cop clubbed her over the head, and the crowd began to boo. An unknown woman was dragged from the bar in handcuffs, but she kept escaping and running around and fighting with police for about 10 minutes. She complained that her handcuffs were too tight, and then an officer hit her in the head with a baton. She turned towards bystanders and said, "Why don't you guys do something?" When the police shoved her into a wagon, the crowd erupted. The commotion attracted more people, including straight people. Activist folk singer Dave Van Ronk came from a bar a couple of doors away. Now, Van Ronk experienced police violence as an anti-war protester. And he said, "As far as I was concerned, anyone who'd stand against the cops was all right with me, and that's why I stayed in. Every time you turned around, the cops were pulling some outrage or another." The Mattachine Society newsletter a month later offered its explanation of why the riots occurred. They said, the Stonewall Inn, it catered largely to a group of people who are not welcome in or cannot afford other places of homosexual social gathering. The Stonewall became home to these kids. When it was raided, they fought for it. That and the fact that they had nothing to lose other than the most tolerant and broad-minded gay place in town explains why the riot happened. Now, the Mattachine Society was an early gay rights organization that started in 1950 in Los Angeles, and by 1961, there were regional groups, and they had organized protests at the UN and the White House in 1965. Back to Stonewall. A fire broke out inside the bar, and there's varying descriptions of how that happened. I'm sure you can understand. And this is where the 10 police officers and a handful of patrons, Van Ronk and Howard Smith from the Village Voice, were barricaded inside. The tactical police force showed up to put an end to this. Fights broke out as the police shoved anyone they could detain into patrol wagons. One group, not willing to go, and leading the fight were the drag queens and the transgender women. A witness recalled that they were fighting furiously. The tactical force set up a phalanx and started marching slowly forward and pushing the crowd back. And the crowd responded by openly mocking the police, which led to more cheers, which then led to an impromptu kick line. One account of that night stated, "I just can't ever get that one sight out of my mind. The cops with the nightsticks and the kick line on the other side. It was the most amazing thing." And all of a sudden, that kick line, which I guess was a spoof on the machismo, I think that's when I felt rage, because people were getting smashed with bats. And for what? A kick line. Marsha P. Johnson, an African-American street queen, along with Zazu Nova and Jackie Hormona, were noted as, quote, 3 individuals to have been in the vanguard of the pushback against the police. At one point, a crowd being chased by the police ended up appearing around another corner, chasing the police themselves because of the way the streets were. It was chaos. By 4 a.m., it was mostly over. People sat on stoops and gathered in the park. Many witnesses said it was eerily quiet, but with a certain electricity in the air. A witness commented, "There was a certain beauty in the aftermath of the riot. It was obvious, at least to me, that a lot of people really were gay. And you know, this was our street." The next night, thousands gathered. Not just the mix from the night before. No, on this night, the second night, they were joined by many different types of people, even tourists. The other odd thing to many there, people were suddenly showing homosexual affection. So, you know, holding hands, hugging, kissing, just happens to be with a member of the same sex, and they were doing this in public. A witness said of the night, word had spread. From going to places where you had to knock on a door and speak to someone through a peephole in order to get in, we were just out. We were in the streets. As before, there were fires. Marsha P. Johnson climbed a light pole and dropped a heavy bag of trash on a police cruiser, knocking out the window. Again, the police faced kick lines. And again, it ended around 4 a.m. And it changed things. But before we talk about that, I want to roll history back a bit. Because we often hear about Stonewall and how it was the start of Pride. And yes, it was. But before that, there was the Compton's Cafeteria Riot. August 1966, 3 years before Stonewall. This time now we're in the Tenderloin district of San Francisco. Now a bit about the Tenderloin in this time. It was always home to marginalized communities. When two neighborhoods nearby that were visibly gay and working class got pushed out during the urban renewal project, the residents moved to the Tenderloin. There were already a few gay bars in the district, but with the influx of queer and transgender people, even more were established. Let me back up a little bit more and why this is important. You see, a few months before this, Harry Benjamin published his book, The Transsexual Phenomenon. In the 1950s and 60s, Benjamin offered information, hormones, and sex reassignment surgery to trans people. And around the time he published his book, he opened a practice in San Francisco, just a few doors down or a block from this cafeteria. His book further legitimized the concept of being transgender to not just the public, but also the medical community. Back to 1966. The Tenderloin location of Compton's cafeteria was a popular meeting place for transgender people, especially trans women. It was one of the few places they could socialize because the gay bars often wouldn't let trans women in. The cafeteria was open all night, so the trans people and the drag queens could meet up after a long night of hustling, AKA sex work. Now here's the thing. The law at the time said that female impersonation was a crime. So the police knew they could come in at night and arrest the trans women and the drag queens. And this happened regularly. On July 19, 1966, Vanguard, the first known gay youth organization in the U.S., came to picket Compton's because they had been kicked out and about the police brutality that regularly happened. And there was some coverage. Here's the interesting thing, though. Vanguard was formed in 1965 by a group of queer youth, and many of these youth were transgender. Many of these youth were engaged in survival sex work, and many did not have stable housing. They formed Vanguard under the Glide Memorial Church. Now, Glide Memorial was a United Methodist church. It was a radical offshoot and a center of progressive social action in the Tenderloin for years. They had been in the community, working with the community. Now, this Vanguard picket wasn't very successful, but not all the work is. The Vanguard picket is still important because it was one of the first demonstrations against police violence directed towards transgender people in San Francisco. And these were queer youth. And it led to the events that happened next. On a hot August night in 1966, the staff at Compton's called the police, again, saying that their transgender patrons were raucous. The police responded. One cop grabbed the arm of a trans woman to arrest her, and she threw a cup of coffee in his face. And the cafeteria erupted. Patrons said they threw anything they could get their hands on, sugar containers, cups, plates, whatever was on the tables, to the cops and towards the windows, shattering. And a few of them said they also hit the cops with their purses and their high heels. These officers left the building and went to the streets to call for backup. And that eruption that happened in the cafeteria flowed out like lava into the street. Protesters damaged a police car and burned down a sidewalk newsstand. And the police, according to Elliot Blackstone, a San Francisco cop, used, quote, unnecessary violence towards the transgender patrons. The next day, more transgender people, hustlers, Tenderloin street people, and many other members of the LGBTQ community came back to picket because Compton's cafeteria would not let them enter. All through this time period, there were riots and uprisings and demonstrations and pickets to fight for the right to simply exist. A year after the Stonewall Uprising, the first Pride Parade took place, starting at Stonewall. There were other Pride Parades happening in other cities on the same day in honor of Stonewall. That first parade, though, the participants were worried. Doric Wilson, who marched in that parade, told American Experience that he was hoping for at least 10 people because they were fine where they were, but eventually they had to cross the street. He continues, and I looked back, and there were about 2,000 people behind us. And that's when I knew it had happened. I say, I cannot tell this without tearing up, and Vito and I walked the rest of the whole thing with tears running down our face. But that's when we knew we were ourselves for the first time. America thought we were these homosexual monsters, and we were so innocent, and oddly enough, we were so American. We were ourselves for the first time. There were 2,000 people behind them, and that's when they knew. American Experience also interviewed Officer Seymour Pine throughout. Remember, I mentioned him earlier. He was there at the original riot. And it was this quote that they closed with that hit me. Pine says, and they were kids. You knew you could ruin them for life. And you felt bad that you were a part of this when you knew they broke the law. But what kind of law was that? What kind of law was that? We're still asking that, aren't we? Listen, this isn't me saying let's grab some bricks. I'm not advocating that from the pulpit. But if you want to go to Home Depot or Lowe's, I'm down. But I am saying that there are places in this country where LGBTQIA plus people are being dragged back to the pre-Stonewall era. And it is no longer a fight just for the community. It is time for the larger community that supports that right to exist as you are and to love who you want to rise up. Rise up even if you don't think it affects you. Rise up because I promise you it affects somebody you love. Rise up because they took down Roe and they've already said that Obergefell is next. Rise up because who knows what's after that. Rise up because we cannot do this fight alone. Amen. Blessed be, and may it ever be so.
Thank you, Reverend Tracie. We extinguish this flame,
But not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts
until we are together again. And the closing music will be led by Paula. Yes.
You know this by memory.
We do. If everybody could stand.
Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea, move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice. Roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me.
My closing words are from the Dalai Lama. Some people automatically associate morality and altruism with a religious vision of the world. But I believe it is a mistake to think that morality is an attribute only of religion. We can imagine two types of spirituality, one tied to religion, while the other arises spontaneously in the human heart as an expression of love for our neighbors and a desire to do them good. So think about this. You probably are all aware about how the Dalai Lama is chosen. They're usually chosen before they're the age of 2. And so it's a child who's not speaking yet. And what do they know about what that child will develop into? But our Dalai Lama, I think, was born, the current one was born in the 1930s. And think about if you had been chosen as the Dalai Lama. You would have been told your whole life that there was something incredibly special about you, and you contained a certain wisdom. Well, it's because it's true. We all have that in us, that ability to be as wise as the Dalai Lama. So then this last one is from Tommy Smothers. When you don't know what you're talking about, it's hard to know when you're finished. Enjoy the coming week and the rains. Yay! Please stay and have some more coffee and finish your conversations. Bye. Oh, there's a postlude. A postlude. Enjoy that also. She's awesome. We're so lucky to have Alicia. Is that me? Must have been.
You get a 2 for today. It's a BOGO option. Our very own Dee will invite you to come forward. And it's Rainbow Connection, right? We're going to do Rainbow Connection, so if you know it, sing along. It's a perfect ending to our Pride service.
Why are there so many songs about rainbows? only foretold, and some choose to believe. I know the wrong way and see. Someday they'll find the rainbow connection, the lovers, the dreamers, and me. Who said that every wish would be heard and answered? Wished on a morning star. Well, somebody thought of that, and someone believed it, and look what they've done so far. What's so amazing that keeps us stargazing? And what do we think we might see? Oh,